Welcome. I'm Julie Bacon, and you're listening to the Mindset Coaching for Handlers podcast, a podcast for dog handlers who are on a mission to achieve big goals. Here I share lessons, insights, personal stories, and tools you can apply during your next show, trial, or test to help you strengthen your mental game and hopefully cue more consistently. Be sure to check out the show notes where you'll find details about the episodes, plus important links, including the link to the Dogged Planner and Workbook created just for handlers on a mission. So if you're ready to improve your competitive mindset, get out of your own way, and connect with your dog like never before, then it's time to get comfy, bring an open mind, and work your mindset. Hey there, welcome back to the podcast. All right, this week, motivation is on my mind. I am coming off of a great specialty, which had a lot of energy around it. And now I find myself sort of like, wah, wah, just sort of like maybe in between the next trial, in between what is my next thing to gear up for. Perhaps that's part of it. Certainly there's kind of a down that happens after large events, right? That adrenaline rush is over and all of the lead up is over. And honestly, some people can even get but really bummed out once they accomplish their goals or after a big event is over. Like Olympians describe it all the time. When they've accomplished what it is that they set out to do, they sometimes go through a depression. Michael Phelps talks very openly about that. Like after Olympic swimming was over, quote, over for him, he was like super depressed because what was next? And I'm not depressed, so no need to worry. And I'm not quitting dog sports, so that's not a worry either. But motivation is definitely on my mind. And those of my members who are listening, we are spending a month on it in the membership because we're going to just break it down and make sure that we have our mojo back, right? So let's talk about motivation. So I think that one of the misnomers maybe about motivation is that people think it's required in order to work or to do something. And if they're not motivated, then something's, quote, wrong. And really, motivation is a feeling. It's an emotion. So let's put it in that emotion bucket where it belongs. It's not rational. It's emotional. We get motivated maybe when we see somebody competing that's amazing and we're like, oh my God, I'm going to go home and work harder because I want to be like them, or I want to handle like them, or I just want to have the relationship with my dogs that person seems to have, or what have you, right? And so we get motivated. We get like that idea of like, just wanting to jump up and just go do something and grab a bag of treats and just go try something, right? We're motivated. And because we have experienced that feeling, we think that we should get that feeling all the time. That we should always feel like grabbing a cheese stick and running out to the yard, or even just grabbing a cheese stick and, working from the couch, right? And sometimes we're not even motivated to do that, if we're being honest. So I think that that's where motivation, I don't have the right word for it, but it gets a kind of a weird rap in that people keep waiting to be motivated before they do something, thinking they have to be motivated before they work. And in truth, like I said, it's an emotion, and it is just as fleeting as all of the other emotions: sadness, happiness, frustration, frustration with your lack of motivation. Like, it is just an emotion. And so instead of, or I shouldn't say instead, in addition to motivation and wanting motivation, which we will definitely talk about how to get that back, we have to be disciplined. Because discipline is the rational side of our brain, right? So discipline is the make a plan, write it down, commit, you signed up for a class every Tuesday, so you're going to go on Tuesdays. You can make those commitments. Even when you don't want to, you still show up at class because you made a plan, you made a commitment, and you're going. Like, you just decided that you're going, right? Going to a trial you don't want to go to when it's pouring rain in the morning because you might not be motivated to go, but you're committed to go. And truth be told, once you get there and once you get in motion, you'll be fine, right? So motivation comes and goes discipline also, sometimes we're not great at sticking to our discipline, by the way, right? That comes and goes as well. That's why we need routines and systems in place, habits in place to help us stick to our discipline, stick to our plans, right? So for me, as you know, on Mondays is my quote, dogman day, my dog administration day, where I, sit down and go through calendars or, try to reorder things or look at trials that I'm entered in or need to enter or are closing soon, or maybe even I need to do move ups, hopefully, right? Whatever the case may be, I try to do that on Monday. And the reason I do that is so that I do it. Right? If we form habits, we're more likely to do them. And if we're trying to form a new habit, it's best to do habit stacking, which is a term used for when you take an existing or a new habit that you want and tie it to an existing habit. So if you want to create a dogman habit of your own, maybe on Mondays you have a point where like you take your lunch and you start to stack, your dogman planning with your lunchtime. And you can do that at work, or you can do that at home, or wherever you are that you are wanting to incorporate that. So you would stack those habits together. Okay. But the important thing is that motivation comes and goes. And so we have to have discipline or a plan or a system in place that keeps us moving forward. And some of us are better at those systems than others. I know that I go really great for a while. Like, I'll talk about my workout habit. I have been amazing about my workout habit for really like a couple years. However, when I'm away from my specialty, which this year I was away for about 5.5 weeks, my workout habit went down the tubes. Okay. During my specialty, I did not work out at all, nor did I on the drive there, the drive home. I did for like 2 weeks about when I was stationary in Colorado. But then there was a drive back, and then there was the bad eating in the car. And then I didn't feel great the first couple days I was back. So then that was an excuse. So I need to get back on my discipline. I need to decide that I am a person who, fill in the blank, works out daily. Okay. And it's not always crazy. Don't imagine me going to some gym and lifting 200 pounds or something. Sometimes it's yoga. Sometimes it's Pilates. I belong to this online thing. And so I do what they tell me to do because I have found that is better than me having to decide what I'm going to do today. Right. I just let the person on the screen tell me what to do, and I do what she says. Okay. But that is something that I have to get back into, right? I have to get back into my discipline. I have to make the decision and decide that I am a person who works out every day, trains my dogs 3 times a week, trials regularly, make sure that I am good about ordering dog food before they run out, whatever that is, whatever that looks like for you. In those areas where it is tough to maintain motivation, what can you put in place that is a system or a habit or a discipline or a time on your calendar? Like, what would help you get into that habit and make discipline more easier? Really, that's what we're looking for, right? That's why we want to be motivated, because when we're motivated, it's easy to get up in the morning, right? Beautiful sunny trial day that's like 2 miles from my house. It's real easy for me to get motivated, right? An hour in the rain, crossing a bridge in traffic or whatever, it's a little harder to get motivated sometimes, right? So we can't just rely on motivation. That's when things are easy. This group, you listeners, you do things when they're hard. All right. But we have to put those discipline things in place. Okay. So that would be the first thing I would tell you, which is probably not what you wanted to hear, of like, how do you get your motivation back? You don't, you get disciplined. Okay. So, not to be the total buzzkill, I do have some ideas on getting your motivation back. So the first thing to understand is you need to understand what motivates you. Okay. At the beginning of the year, we put together all of these like shiny goals. And, if you're like me, you pull out your planner, you put them for each dog and what you're going to do like in the coming years, this year from now, the next 6 months, maybe even the next 3 months. And you are motivated because you are going to accomplish that whole list. And at the end of the year, there's going to be a check mark next to all the things, right? And it's motivating and it's emotional and it's exciting and it's a new year, a clean slate, all the hope. right? Just like when you get a shiny new puppy and you start, assigning all of these lifetime goals to them, they don't know they're going to be on the world team, but you do, right? And so you start assigning all of those things and you're motivated and you're excited and all of that, right? So when we look back at our goals, we should still feel excited about them. No, we probably don't feel excited every day, okay? But if you're looking for some of your motivation, go back into those goals. Go back into that planner and look at your why. Why do you do dog sports to begin with? What are your goals this year? How are you doing against your goals? Have you already made progress? Maybe your own progress will motivate you to make more and to remind you that it's possible, right? Sometimes that's what we need, is a reminder to make to know that it's possible. Because sometimes we get frustrated, right? We get frustrated with the progress, or we think we're not making any progress, or we get frustrated by a bad weekend or a rough class session or what have you, right? So go back and look to your goals and both your outcome goals and your process goals to see if you can't rekindle some of that motivation that you had at the beginning of the year when you were making those big lists. Okay, so that would be one place I would tell you to go. The other things I want to talk about is those frustrating times, which I just kind of mentioned, right? You're hitting a wall maybe with a young dog, or they're just taking all of your energy and you just can't anymore. Or maybe like me, it had been a really long time. Notice I said in the past tense. It had been a really long time before your dog got the weaves in public. And, for a while I didn't even enter her, right? I was so deflated and just frustrated, and I just couldn't even, right? I just couldn't even. But I knew that she was talented, and I looked at my dog and I was like, what does this dog need? Who does this dog need me to be for her? And that was motivating for me, right? To look at my frustration and my training issues and my ring issues, really, and ask myself, what can I do for her? What can I do differently? How can I use curiosity? How can I lead with love and support and be like, what does this dog need from me? And turns out what she needed from me was to drop every bit of expectation and, kind of relearn just to walk in the ring and expecting nothing and to have fun and just to let her be her. And those were hard lessons for me to learn. They don't sound so hard when I say them like this, but they were hard lessons for me to learn. And in that process, though, I found my motivation again. And now I'm looking forward to trialing her again because I now know the feeling that I'm going after, the feeling I'm chasing, because I know who I need to be as her handler in order to give her a chance to do what I know that she can do. Right? So that's kind of motivating. I've turned the frustration into a challenge, a handling challenge, but also I've leaned into the curiosity and the puzzle of it. And as handlers who are dog trainers, how are we going to figure this out? What is the puzzle? And can I lean into the mystery of this and figure it out and come out solving it? Right? And come out with new skills and new mindset skills for sure, and new abilities, right? For this dog, for the next dog, for the future. All right. So those are a couple. I've got some more ideas when we come back. Quick question. Do you ever wish you had more mindset help? Well, the Q membership was created just for that reason. Every month we pick a topic, and then we have 4 lessons, which are kind of like these podcasts, that we dive deeper into. And so if you are ready for more, you're ready for more mindset work, think about joining the Q membership. Annual members get a free coaching session, but you can also choose the monthly option as well. Go to theqcoach.com to learn more. Let's get back to the episode. Alrighty. So one of the hardest things to come out of, I think, is that feeling that you've just completely lost your mojo. That there's really nothing that motivates you. You're not motivated by any of your goals. And you don't have to have experienced something bad, right? You don't have to have had a bad weekend, or sometimes you just don't wanna, sometimes you just don't wanna. And, sometimes things happen in our lives that, are zapping all of our energy and we just don't have anything left, right? So in those moments, I will, of course, ask clients like, hey, what are your goals for this year? Do any of those goals excite you? Because sometimes you look back at your goals, and maybe you did that on the first part of this episode, and you looked at it and you were like, yeah, I don't care about any of those, So sometimes we have to look at them and we have to revise them, or we look at them and we have to say, I'm only motivated when I'm entered in something, and then that makes me train. And that's true. I've been guilty of that at time to time. And so we have to look back at that and see, what if I entered a trial? Would that get me motivated again? What if I did something different with my dogs, like just went on a hike and just started enjoying them as dogs again? Would that get my mojo back, right? Sometimes we're struck by a rehab or an injury for our dogs, for ourselves, and it's really hard for us to get excited about training again, because it's going to be 6 months before the dog walks into the ring, or it's going to be 6 months before you walk back into the ring. So what can you do in the meantime, though, to make progress? Again, how can you be feeding the things that you want in life? Like, I don't even want to say goals, just bigger than that. Like that you do this dog sport world for a reason. What did you write down as your why this year? Why is it that you compete with dogs? And can you maybe shift sports? Or can you, if your dog's facing a rehab or you're facing a rehab, what is your living room training routine? What can you be working on now that will make things easier later? Or what can you do now that just builds your connection with your dog or makes you fall in love with your dog all over again? I know for me, there was a time that was literally my mantra with Moxie. It was to fall in love with her like I did when I first brought her home. And I was like, oh my God, this dog is magical. She can do anything. I can teach her anything in 5 minutes. And I needed to fall in love with that dog again. So maybe that's where your mojo is. Or maybe you, like I mentioned, you just need to enter something that is on your list. And you know that if you do that, you know yourself well enough that if you do that, then you will go out and train, right? Because you don't want to show up to the ring unprepared. All right. So some of this is just self-awareness, right? And being really honest with yourself about what moves you, what gets you excited, what gets you moving. Is it a commitment? Is it accountability, to someone else? You find a training partner or accountability partner that you just say like, hey, just hold me accountable because I'm having trouble getting my mojo back. Or maybe it's just a great conversation with a friend or a coach or somebody that just helps you work it out and work out why it is that you are not motivated. I am not a big fan of skipping over the underlying emotions that are causing your lack of mojo or your loss of mojo. And so, that's really something to sit with, maybe journal, maybe scream out the car window, maybe just have a conversation with yourself and just kind of figure it out, right? I think that that's really important because just saying, just grab a cheese stick, you'll be fine, is not necessarily a sustainable, easy for me to say, a sustainable answer, right? We want to fix the underlying thing if possible and really understand how we can deal with it so that we can get our motivation and our discipline back. Because it's more fun, let's be honest, it is more fun when I work out, when I'm motivated to work out, than when I'm just working out. But I do have an accountability partner that helps me be honest about working out. And so that helps me on those days where it's hard, right? So I have a couple things around working out for me in terms of wanting to build that habit that I can rely on when my motivation isn't there, right? When I wake up on a rainy Monday morning and just want to stay in bed, what's going to get me moving? It's not all discipline. Sometimes we need to go find our motivation as well, right? They kind of work together. Two sides, same coin, maybe not, but certainly our emotions and our rational. And then finally, the other thing I love to do, and this is where we started this month's membership lesson, is modeling or like looking to other people or letting them drive you, right? So for me, I love watching great handlers, and great handlers in whatever ring, conformation ring, obedience, rally, agility, water sports, like it doesn't matter, whatever ring, barn hunt, it doesn't matter. Keep going. Because I get motivated by them. I learn by watching, of course, but also I'm like, yeah, I want to work harder at this because I want to be able to handle like that. So sometimes our motivation comes from watching others and taking that home and having something to work for and be like, I want to handle like so-and-so. I want to, be able to have a relationship with my dogs like so-and-so. I want to be able to perform that one cross, that one thing like so-and-so did this weekend. And sometimes our motivation can come from outside. I talk about finding a lot about a lot of motivation from horse people still, because that was my early days. And so there's still a lot of that I lean on and find motivation in some horse people. Is it a direct comparison? No. But can I find motivation in their work ethic, or how smooth they are, or just, again, how they seem to be with their relationship with their animals? Like, there's motivation everywhere. You could find a celebrity motivator. You could find, who knows? Maybe you find a mentor at work or something, or just, a great teacher. Like that, the motivation is everywhere. So looking for it and looking to other people, or like sometimes I say, like, borrow theirs. You're kind of borrowing their mojo to get yours back. Like, you kind of think like, well, what would Susie Q do in this situation, right? What would Joe Schmo do in this situation? Like, how can I emulate them in this moment? What would they be doing, right? And what's interesting, I think, in that moment is, so much of, for sure, social media is comparing our own real life journey to someone else's highlight reel, right? And that's why comparison is, that's one of the million reasons why comparison is so dangerous. But it's because you know what your reality is, and you're comparing your reality to someone else's highlight reel. In other words, what they choose, what they have filtered, what they have curated to put on social media for others to see. And that, when it comes to motivation, works in your favor at this moment, right? Because you're seeing their best. And if you want to be their best, or you want to emulate them at their best, that may move you. That may be the spark that you need to get you off the couch and grabbing a cheese stick and heading to the yard, right? Or that makes you go to class or whatever. So sometimes finding someone to emulate, or to, again, like borrow, what would so-and-so do? Whether or not that's their real life, it's their highlight reel that you can see on social, right? What would they do, and try to emulate that. So those are some of my clues and cues and ideas and brainstorming, really, for you, like getting your motivation back. And sometimes you have motivation in one area, maybe one sport, and not in another, or you have it for one dog but not for another. And so figuring that out and unpacking that and really figuring out why. Don't just skip over the why because it's ugly or painful or makes you cry or whatever it is. Like, go ahead and get self-aware about why that might be, and then come back and see, is it discipline? Is it accountability? Is it revisiting your goals? Is it finding a mentor or somebody to emulate? What is it that you need to kind of get your mojo back, to get that motivation that you need to do the things you want to do, but you just can't make yourself do for whatever reason, okay? And remember, when motivation fails, like, discipline needs to step in. So it's possible that some days you get up and you do the thing just because you committed and you decided that this is what you were going to do. And other days it's easier to hop out of bed because you're excited to do the thing you said you wanted to do. So don't be so hard on yourself when you're not motivated. That's the other thing I see is people are like, oh, I'm not motivated. What's wrong with me? I don't know. You're human, maybe. Motivation's an emotion. All right. So cut yourself a little slack and start to look for these clues in your life of what does motivate you, so that you can draw upon those things when you need it. All right. And I hope that you find motivation this week, and I would love to know what motivates you. Always share. There's links in the show notes and other good things. And if you want to join us in the membership this month, do, because we're going to go deep on this topic. But in the meantime, whatever you're up to this week, I hope you have a fantastic time with your dogs. Thanks so much for listening to the Mindset Coaching for Handlers podcast with me, Julie Bacon. I am so grateful for your precious time. Check out my Dogged Planner, workbook, and journal available on Amazon. Just search for Dogged Planner. I also offer monthly membership that's perfect for ongoing support of your awesome goals. Check out theqcoach.com for details, or just stop by and check out all the ways you can work on your mindset. And be sure to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at theqcoach and let me know how it's going. Finally, please share, subscribe, and leave a review. This helps us podcasters tremendously. Plus, I know I get my best podcast recommendations from friends. Thanks, and have a great week with your dogs.